What is up, and welcome back to Gorism, the channel where I fill your void on all things horror, weird, and just plain creepy. My name is Ryan, and today we're talking about Nope, Jordan Peele's feature film that was just released today. I am very, very excited to talk about this one because not only was it in my top three and most anticipated films of 2022, I just have really enjoyed Jordan Peele's filmography in the past, and I feel like all his films are so different. And I was just ready to see what somebody would bring to the whole alien horror genre. But before we get started, if you can like, subscribe, follow, and comment down below so we can talk all things Nope. And on top of that, there's going to be a few spoilers ahead. So a little backstory about me really is that I really, really love alien type films. The Fourth Kind is probably one of my top scariest films to me, and also Close Encounters I really have always loved, and just something about space and aliens I think has always been something that I'm like, the unknown is really scary to me. So when I saw this trailer come out, I was really, really excited. And I remember actually before the trailer came out, the poster came out, and just the visuals of it really creeped me out. And so I was obviously excited to see kind of like what this one was about, and then the trailer dropped, and so there was a lot of excitement behind this film. And I think for a lot of people, they felt the same way because it was maybe a new take on a horror type film, and it was Jordan Peele, so we know there was going to be some sort of social commentary, and that was something that was really exciting to me. So of course I couldn't wait to see this one. Okay, so starting off with my positives, I think the film overall was shot so beautifully in all of the scenes. I think everything that was happening, the cinematography was really, really great. Granted, Nope apparently had a $68 million budget, which is insanely high in comparison to Us, for instance, with a $20 million budget. So there's vast difference between them as far as budget is concerned, but I don't think that they made it overboard with all the bells and whistles of visual effects and everything. It all seemed to be really, really great. And a lot of the scenes take place at night, though even the scenes that take place during the day and the stuff that you see was shot just super beautifully. So that is definitely a positive to me because I just enjoyed watching everything that was happening on screen, even the parts that weren't necessarily scary or everything. It just all kind of like meshed really well together for me. Another really good positive that I had is that the cast was really, really great overall. I think everyone there really to me was like four main characters, but everyone really brought something to the film. And I think Daniel Kaluuya's character and how his acting style is, and obviously how the script was, he was definitely more, I guess, subdued in his actions and speaking. He didn't speak as much, but I think that everything that he said with body language was enough, whereas Keke Palmer's character, on the other hand, she is super outspoken, and she's kind of the comic relief of the film, though it was never like annoying. And I've only seen her in, embarrassingly enough, I've only seen her in Hustlers. I have never seen her in anything else that she's done, and so I didn't know too much about her, but I thought she was really, really great. And so I definitely look forward to kind of seeing, I guess, what she does next from this. But on top of that, I thought that Brandon Perea, he kind of was the nerd tech guy that kind of came in to help him out, and he ended up staying a lot longer than I anticipated. But I really enjoyed his character, and I thought the relationship that he had with them was really great. We didn't see a ton of Steven Yeun's character, though I did enjoy the parts that he was in. And I guess maybe the majority of the social commentary kind of came from his, without giving too much away, came from his like character and the things that were happening with him. So I did enjoy it, and I just thought all of them together worked really, really great, and it was something that made me it made the film blend seamlessly for me. So conceptually, I really enjoyed the film. I think that, listen, for horror lovers and just like film in general, like we are constantly seeing recycled storylines and recycled this and recycled this. And so for me, this was something that conceptually was really great in the sense that it was something that we haven't seen before. I probably can't think of one movie that I've seen with this specific type of storyline. I don't want to give it away, but I thought it was really cool. I thought it took a lot of bravery for Jordan Peele and the script to kind of like go there and make this what it was supposed to be. And so I really enjoyed that part. I never felt like a lull in the film. I was perked up the whole time, and I thought it was a really cool concept, and that to me is probably one of the most important things to have in a film, is just like conceptually something that is unique and something that hasn't been done before. You already have me with that, but just to kind of execute it the way that it was, I thought it was really, really cool. Okay, so for my negatives, the first thing that comes to mind is there's this whole subplot from Steven Yeun's character, and I think that I really enjoyed the storyline that they brought to us from his character. Like, I actually liked the whole side story of everything that happened to him. Though I will say that after leaving the film, every single one of us, there was four of us in the film. I felt like we all were kind of like, that didn't necessarily make sense. Why did they include that story in the film? It had nothing to do with the whole big backstory of what was going on. Granted, it was an interesting story. I just don't think they made it connect as much, and it kind of felt a little bit disjointed in a way. Saying that, I would like to see more of that whole story. So it's kind of like, it's like a catch-22 because I did really like it, but at the end of the day, it didn't feel part of the main story that we were given. So that was a little bit, I guess, confusing to me. And that being said, I think that goes hand in hand with, I think Jordan Peele in general has a way of creating, he has like an M. Night Shyamalan effect in the sense that I think people either love or hate his films. And I think he always has like a story that could be, it creates a lot of conversation. And I think the same for M. Night Shyamalan. His films always create some sort of buzz and chaos, and people always want to talk about the things that are happening because you either love him or you hate him. And of course, Jordan Peele is heavy on social commentary. And I think this is probably his most mainstream film. Also his, I guess, conceptually a little bit of more straightforward. But in general, it was a little bit of a vague narrative in the sense that leaving was kind of like, okay, so what did that necessarily, like, what did that mean? Or, I was kind of looking for a bigger storyline than maybe he was even intending on including. Another negative, which it's not really a negative, but it's another thing that I thought of while watching this, is that I think a lot of people are going into this, by the way it was kind of promoted and things like that, into this as it's like a horror film. And I'm here to tell you it's not really a horror film. I honestly would call this like a creature feature. I get the comparison as to why people are saying that it's like Jordan Peele's Jaws, because this is definitely more of a creature feature than it is a horror film. I would say the first like bulk of the movie is pretty suspenseful, and there are a lot of things happening that are like, they're pretty scary, and I think that there were some people in my audience that were definitely screaming, but I don't think overall, after watching the film, especially the last half of the film, once everything's kind of revealed and everything, it's not really a horror film. And that could be a problem for some people because some people are going into it wanting to be scared, and some people want these specific type of reactions, or they have expectations. But for me, I don't think that this is a horror film, and it's not a negative necessarily, but it's just something that is worth noting, and I did enjoy it regardless. And once I kind of like was in the film, I kind of like reset my expectations of what I thought the film was, because I was like, okay, this is not what I was expecting, so it's actually this. So I was cool with it. But I don't think everyone's going to be like that. And I think a lot of people are going to be like, that wasn't a horror film, it wasn't scary. And so that's just something that I wanted to say, and I know it's something that I'm sure people are going to talk about. So my overall thoughts, me personally, I'm going to say my ranking of Jordan Peele's films are as follows, just because I feel like this is important, because I know a lot of people have very, very different opinions about which is his best or which is his worst and yada yada. So I personally like Us the best. I think Us was the most suspenseful to me. I thought it was definitely the most confusing for sure. But after watching it a few times over the years, I have grown to really, really enjoy it. And so I think Us to me is by far his best. Get Out is the second to me, because I think that is obviously his critically acclaimed film. I think his most recognizable, and I think it's something that a lot of people really, really enjoyed. And I did like Get Out a lot. But I would put Nope as my third place in his, and this is also needs to be said, is that I think all of his films are great. So none of them are bad. Whereas like M. Night Shyamalan, I feel like, not to compare him again, but I feel like M. Night Shyamalan has really great and really terrible films. So I think he's like so up and down, whereas Jordan Peele seems to be like very, almost even, but they're all very different, And I think ultimately this film kind of leans into, the struggles of always wanting to be number one, and, social media in a way, and kind of like all those things that, wanting to be the first to do something, and like these pressures that I guess these social norms that we place on ourselves. And so I think that's kind of where this film kind of sits. Though I will say that I guess on the surface level, the film can seem very confusing at times, and I agree that there are quite a few holes in the plot. Ultimately, though, I think my takeaway, which took a little bit of time to sit there and think about what exactly I kind of thought of everything that was happening, because in general, I think that Jordan Peele always has a meaning to the films that he does, and there's always a kind of a thought process after you leave his films, because you want to know what the deeper meaning was, because I feel like there always is that. And for me, my kind of takeaway was, as I mentioned before, it's a lot of exploitation and what as a society we're willing to do to achieve that. And for the characters in the film, like Keke Palmer's character, for instance, she was so hell-bent on becoming successful and a celebrity, essentially. So she was kind of the one that was driving everything as far as her wanting to get the quote-unquote impossible shot and what lengths she was willing to go to get that shot. And everyone else that was in it also, they mention there's a TMZ reporter that's there. And, I think when you're kind of looking at the story back to back, I think that the Gordy story, the whole subplot of Ricky's character, seems like confusing as far as how they kind of blend together. But I think ultimately it kind of goes hand in hand with the whole, what happens when you exploit an animal or a person. And Ricky essentially kind of suffered from doing that because he made a career based on exploitation and what he was willing to do, because he made a career from the tragedy that he suffered when he was a little kid. He basically, he mentions in the film that he's had people pay to stay at that place. And also on top of that, there was like an SNL skit that kind of like, so they've characterized and they've made a mockery of the things that had happened to him. And so in turn, he does the same thing in exploiting the aliens and exploiting the ship. And that's kind of why he feeds them the horses and the people that are in the audience. And that's ultimately why he suffers in the end, is because of that. But in general, I think the film leaves a lot to the imagination and like what you ultimately think of everything that happened. And like I said before, there are many holes in the plot and things that I wish could have been a little bit more fleshed out as far as the story. But I really do think that it was a cool story. It was innovative, and I really enjoyed what Jordan Peele was trying to do. And it was definitely worth watching. But that being said, there were parts that I wish, just as a whole, could have been, I guess, delivered better or could have been explained a little bit more. Because I think a lot of people, or most people that leave the film, are kind of like, this made no sense, instead of just sitting there and thinking about what the meaning was behind it. There's still the whole floating shoe thing, and I don't really know exactly what that means, but ultimately I did really enjoy what I was given. I guess I will say on the Gorism scale, I'm going to give Nope I really toggle between like a 3 and a 3.5 out of 5 on the Gorism scale, only because I think it hasn't sit with me long enough to fully get the whole picture of it and really like know what I think about it. But as of now, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 on the Gorism scale. My name is Ryan again, and I just wanted to do my quick review of Nope. I would love to hear what you guys think also. Did you love it? Did you hate it? And if so, leave some comments down below. I would love to talk all things horror related, and also Nope and Jordan Peele. I have some really cool videos coming up too, and I would love to get you guys' opinions and comments. And if you can, subscribe and follow, and we will talk soon.